Hey guys, my name's Justin Cruz, and I play for Kennesaw State University on the club lacrosse team. And Coach Lee is one of my coaches, and he's one of your coaches too. And I strung one of his heads a couple weeks ago, and he liked it a lot, and he wanted me to make a video showing you guys how to string. So basically, what we got here is just all you need is three like 1.5 foot long strings, normal sidewall strings. That's one for the top, one for the one for each sidewall, and then you want like a little string, like can be just like a foot long or half a foot, doesn't matter, for down here, hooking up the mesh at the end to these holes. But I guess first I just want to talk about mesh. You guys probably already know about all the different kinds of mesh and stuff, but I've gone through a lot of mesh, and I just think I've learned some stuff along the way. So there's soft mesh, there's hard mesh, which is this, there's 6-diamond mesh, there's East Coast mesh, which is wax infused, and then there's like, you can string traditional, there's Canadian mesh, ruby mesh, all that sort of stuff. So soft mesh is good if you want a lot of hold, but it's not going to last very long. If you're scooping a lot on turf or concrete, if you're just messing around with your friends, it's going to tear up, and you're going to have to get a new piece like very frequently. And then, but I mean, it's good if you want hold. And then, so hard mesh, which is this, normal hard mesh, not wax infused or anything. This is always my go-to. It's more durable than soft mesh. It's going to say harder for longer, but after a while it's going to get pretty soft, and it's basically going to turn into a more durable soft mesh, which I like. Yeah, I mean, I always just use this, just normal hard mesh. Sometimes the colored hard meshes are more durable than the white hard meshes because of the paint that they use. I don't know why, I've just noticed that they get less soft. I don't know what that paint does to them, but it stays harder and firmer for way longer than the white. And then 6-diamond, I would never recommend that to anybody. That stuff is just horrible. I don't even know. It's like really hard to string, and I don't know. There's nothing good about it other than it's really durable and it'll probably never rip or anything. But yeah, if you use 6-diamond, I don't know how you do it, but good luck to you. And then there's stringing traditional. That is really hard to do. I've tried it before and it worked out for a while, but the leathers that they use, they like rip up after a while if you don't string it right. Like these strings that wrap around the leathers, they'll end up just ripping the leather in half, and then you have to restring it. So it's really high maintenance. Almost every time you use your stick, you're going to have to tune up your traditional. But it is really nice if you don't care for the maintenance all the time. It's really nice hold, really nice like accuracy, shooting, gives you a ton of whip. But yeah, there are other videos on YouTube that'll teach you how to do that. But this is just for normal stringing with mesh. So basically, I always start with the top string, which is usually the longest string that you need. Let me find which one's the longest here. Probably this one right here. Alright. So this is pretty much a universal way that people do the top string. I'll just string it myself on here, and then I'll zoom in a little bit to show you guys what is happening here. But I'm using the top hole on the sidewall right here. I'm using the top hole, and then always fold the mesh over. It's hard to like show you guys, but each side of a hard mesh piece, one side when you fold it over is going to have 9 holes, and the other side is going to have 10, but it's actually backwards. This side's going to have 9, this side's going to have 10, and you want to use the 10 on the top. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, okay, so that just works with the 4 holes up top. Alright, and you want to fold it over just so it's one row of double holes. And then you want the inside, where the ball's going to be touching, to be the rougher side of the mesh, because each side is different. The back side is smoother. It's like almost shiny when you get the mesh, and then the one that the ball's touching is a little bit rougher. You should be able to tell. Can't really tell because this isn't like a nice camera or anything. Alright, so basically what I'm going to do up top is I'm going to anchor this first hole to the sidewall. So I'm going through the first hole on the head, And I'm gonna... Okay, so like I was trying to say, had a little hiccup there. I'm gonna anchor this first hole to the sidewall. But I'll zoom in a second. Alright. So basically what I did here is I came through the hole, I went under. So this is the terminology I'm going to be using, I guess. I went under this hole, the first hole. I went under, which is a double hole, there. And then I'm going to put it through that same exact hole I came through. And then pull it. And that fastens it to the sidewall. Like that. Jesus. Yeah, like that. Alright. So you want to do that first. Okay, now you're going to have 8 holes left in the middle for these 4 holes on the top. And then you're going to have 1 on the other side to anchor to the other side. So that's how that math ends up working. Alright, so you want to fasten this a little tighter just because you want it stretched out. Okay. Alright. So now when you're trying to do the top, you're going to want to go through the head first, through the top, up through the bottom of that first hole on the pair. You're going to make an L like that. And then you're going through the top of the mesh for the second hole in each pair. Then you're coming up through the bottom of the head after that. Tighten. And you're going to get something that looks like that. And then you're just going to replicate that 3 more times. Okay. So, like I said, you go through the head on the first hole of each pair. Then up through the mesh. Then on the second one, you go through the mesh first, and then up through the head. And fasten. Okay, I'm just going to skip the rest because you guys should be able to do that until we get to this anchor. Okay, so I've done all 4 of those. I've done the first anchor on this side. Now I'm going to do the other on this side to finish the top off. So you're going to do it backwards of the way you did the other side. You're going to go through the hole first, through the head, the first hole like you did on the other side. Just pull it through, whatever. And then go under that first hole of mesh. Just like before, just doing what you did backwards. See that? And now, when you end up putting it back through that same hole, see it's going to pull like that up against the mesh. So let me just do that real quick. Alright. This side's always going to be less tight when you're fastening it, though, just because you're going to have to tie a knot after. And that always, like, loosens it up a little bit. Crap. Alright. This part is definitely harder. Yep. Alright. So when you're done fastening, it should all look like this. See? Fastened over here. And you can pause this video at any time just to like look and see where each string is going. See? And I'm fastening it there. Next thing I do, all I gotta do is tie a knot. And then this is kind of what it looks like on the other side. Just all these little pairs of holes. Alright. So yep, now I'm just going to tie this knot up and you're done with the top. And that's pretty easy after you do it a couple times. And then yeah, you can just clip the ends off light. I'm sure you guys know how to do that. Alright. So this is where it gets tricky. You're going to start with the sidewalls. And with the new rules that they've come out with, your shooting strings, they can only be 4 inches down, and you can't use U's, which I know, hopefully, a lot of you guys fell in love with the U's, man. They just held onto the ball. Nobody could take a ball out of your stick. But now we have to suffer through just using straight across. And so a way to kind of bring back the U is creating a really tight channel. And I found a way to do that in the past couple of years since they made those rules, because that kind of stuff drives me crazy and I like whip. Alright, so to get a lot of channel, which I know some of you guys probably want, hopefully. So you're going to get a sidewall string. I'm going to start on this side. Well, I guess I could start on this side. So basically the key to doing a channel that's tight is you want to be pulling down this mesh really tight like that. See, I'm already making a channel just by pulling the mesh. Pulling the mesh this direction towards me on the sidewall. So you want to string it so that's tugging down, and see how tight it's making that channel right there? So yeah, you want to string it like that. Now, you can obviously make it extremely narrow like that, or you can make it, a little fatter depending on if you're, a deep hole, tackman, midi, whatever, and whatever you like. So to do that, you're going to start stringing your sidewall farther down in like one of these holes, instead of like normal people would have used to start the sidewall right here and then start stringing. But here you want to start here and then connect it to this first mesh hole, and it's going to tug all the way down. So how this works is you'd use something called an anchor knot up here for the first couple, just to get where the shooting string area is. So I'm starting on that fourth hole now on the sidewall. This is a superpower, by the way, and a lot of heads are similar to this, but also some heads have like 100 holes right here, and you can pick any, but you can do the distance on your own if you have one of those heads. So this isn't an anchor knot. The first one you can't do an anchor knot. You're just going to be doing it through the under of the mesh, and then pulling really tight. Now you see, just by the way that hole is shaped, you can tell how hard I'm pulling it down, and it's already stretching down really far. Okay, so that's good. That's what you want. You want it getting tight all across here and pulling it for the channel. Okay, so now, depending on what head you have, you might go to the next hole, or you might skip a hole to pull the next mesh hole down. So here I'm probably gonna skip a hole, because this hole is really close to the first one, and it might not tug this mesh hole as far as I want. So I'm going to skip a hole on the mesh. See? There's a hole in the middle. I'm going to go under, and this is where the anchor knot comes into play. Okay, so I'm through the head, under this whole mesh over here. Okay, so I'm just going to pull it through first, just to show you guys what's happening. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like. Now to anchor it, you got this string, you've made this loop right here, you're going to take it through here, like this. So from the side the mesh is on to outside the head, that direction. Okay? That's going to make an anchor knot. And it's an anchor knot because after all this, watch, you tug it down like this, it's anchoring that hole in place permanently. And it's not going to budge really over time and use. Okay? And the more you do this right here, this motion, it's just going to tighten it more and more, and it's going to pull it down. Okay? So now this is really tight. And it's pulling that mesh down for that channel like we talked about before. Okay? So now I'm going to do that again. One more anchor knot. And like I said, some heads might vary. Some heads you might have to do like 3 or 4 anchor knots, but not this one. Okay? I'm going to stick it through here. You can tell I've strung this before. See how misformed that hole is. Okay? Sticking it through that loop I made. Now I'm tightening it. Yep, so there it is, right there. So I've got the first hole right here, anchor. So for a superpower, that's all you really need. And you can almost just count the holes right here yourself and do it on your own superpower if you have one. Alright, so now the next part, now that I'm done with all the anchors that pretty much create the channel, I'm going to start what forms the pocket. So when I'm stringing a deep hole, I'm going to triple up, okay? So now when I'm talking about, when I do this, I say singling up, doubling up, or tripling up. That involves like where I want the pocket, how deep the pocket's going to be, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I'm just going to do it how like, I'm a midi, so I like just a normal mid pocket, kind of deep, goes across the whole head sort of thing. Sometimes I want it like right here where it holds the ball, but I'm just going to show you guys. I'm going to double up twice, and I'm going to single up the rest of the head and then be done with the sidewall. But on a deep hole, I would probably triple up first, and then double up, and then single, single, single. Now, if I'm an attackman and I like a high pocket, I'm probably just going to triple up, and then single, single, single. You can do that, or do the same thing as a midi. Just double up, single, single, single. I'll show you guys what I mean when I do this double up. So double up, you've done that last anchor, okay? And you've got these next two holes. Double up, you're using two holes, okay? So you've got this anchor. You're just taking the string immediately from the anchor, going under this next hole, okay? That's it, just under that hole. Then you're going under the next one. Now, you'll see what happened in a second. If you can see, now these things are kind of like on a rope, and you can compress them like that. You can stretch them out too. But what you want to do is compress them like that, so they kind of look like that right there. Now that's a double up. See if I can give you guys a better view sort of thing. Okay, so that's two holes that I used. Okay, that's why it's doubling up. If I was tripling up, I'd do the next hole too. I'd go under the next one, and then I'd compress them all. That's a triple up. Now, what doubling up and tripling up does is it creates like a more concentrated area of mesh. And the way the shape of these holes work is when it's concentrated like that. You see this hole right here? See how stretched and like pointed this way it is? It's concentrating more mesh in this area, and that's where the ball ends up wanting to sit because of gravity and, you know, when you're cradling the ball, that's just, the ball wants to go into that area because that's where the most mesh is, you know, the least resistance. So basically, yeah, if I was tripling up, it would be even more concentrated in this area, and the pocket would for sure only be like right here in the middle, up top. Okay, so I'm just going to double up for now. And you see that when you press it, just like push it up like that, look at that. You can already see the pocket sort of starting to form. Okay, so I doubled up, and after you double up, you just want to kind of like secure it with your normal kind of just like loop through the hole. I'll show you what I mean. So with one of those just normal loops, you just want to go through the head, and then don't go through any mesh. Just come back through this hole right here, just in between the mesh and ball. And then, you know, make it sort of an anchor knot just on the head. So I went through the through the head, sorry, from the outside in, and I came right back up and came on this side of that string, and I'm just pulling it to kind of secure it. And then you'll see, now that double up is on its own little like spot on the string in between these two holes that have been anchored. Anchor, double up. These two strings can kind of move around, which is good. And then this is sort of an anchor to the head, okay? So now, like I said, I'm going to double up again. Just for the superpower, that's what I do. You double up. Usually gives you a pretty even pocket across the thing, across the head. Okay, so I just did the same thing. I went under both holes. That's my second double up right here. This hole with this hole, okay? It's the same thing. You come right off this anchor, and then you just go through, under. All right, and I'm just going to anchor that to the head. Okay, like I said before, you go through the head, then you come back. Don't go through any mesh. Come back on this side. And you just pull, anchored up. Like I said, if anything's confusing you, just pause the video and just like look at what's happening on the head, or just to repeat what I said before. Just so I'm not like repeating myself and making this like a 45-minute video. Okay, so we've completed both of the double ups right there for the pocket. And for the rest of the sidewall, I'm just going to single up. And I'm sure you guys can use your imagination and understand what that means, but I'm going to show you anyway. So you've done the anchor to the head after the second double up. So single up, you go up through one hole to the bottom, just like the double up, just one hole. Okay, same thing. Now you're just going to anchor it to the next hole that you can find, like I've said before, through the head. Come back over the sidewall. Don't go through any mesh. Remember, be on this side. Just pull through, just like that. And you anchored the single. Okay, so you've singled, and then just single again and again and again. So I'm going to come up through, and then I'm going to anchor. I'm going to anchor. I'm going to do it again. Yeah, I mean, you might have to do this countless times. Feel free to skip through all these parts too, sorry. Okay, so I've singled through about 4 actually. So now you're going to have to tie it off. There's tons of ways to do this. You can honestly just end it right now, come through the inside of the head and tie it off. You could do that. I think I'm going to go through this last piece of mesh. I don't know, it doesn't really matter, but I'm going to come through the top of this last piece of mesh, or this last hole I'm going to use right after the last one I singled up. So I went through the top. See that last hole right there? And I'm going to come through the inside of the head. I'm going to go through either one of these holes at the bottom. Just come through, poking towards the outside. And then, just pull it, and it should, like, secure it down here. And yeah, so it's starting to look like that. And I've done half of it, and you can already see that channel is huge. Or it's tight. That's what I meant to say. It's a nice channel. It's a tight channel. Okay. So I'm just going to tie it off. And that is one sidewall. And honestly, you can just duplicate this on the other side. So I'm not going to do the other side and go through all of that again. Everything I did on this side is just the same exact thing on the other side, just reverse, obviously. So yeah, that's what it's looked like, just in case you want to pause and look at that and see what happened here. So first hole is anchoring that top. Skipped 2 holes, started, no anchor, just pulled it down. Anchored after I skipped a hole. Anchored again, there are no holes in the middle, so just the next hole, okay? Then I doubled up, went under, doubled up, anchored, single, 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 blah, blah, blah. Then I cut it off, okay? So then I'm just going to do this other side, and then I'll show you how to tie this bottom off, which is not hard. You could probably do it without me. And then roll the shooters, or not roll the shooters, just do the shooters in the different places that you can put them. Okay guys, so I finished both sidewalls. This is the sidewall I was doing before. This is the other one, literally exactly the same as the other side. And now this is the channel we're dealing with here. Kind of see, it's a pretty tight channel. When you put shooters in, you'll notice the whip or anything. Well, I mainly do this for whip, but you'll notice the whip when you push the shooters in if you can't already notice. But yeah, I'd say this is a pretty decent channel, and if you wanted it tighter, just up here where we did this part of the sidewall, you just start lower or add an extra anchor here. So instead of starting the doubling up process here, go to the next hole and anchor, like, the next mesh hole, anchor that one. So then you would have tugged down 3 of these, which would be pulling it way tighter. Honestly, most heads are going to be illegal when you do that, but hey, you might have a different head that that might work with. So that's one way to make it way tighter, is by pulling it down. Do that on both sides, obviously. And if this is too much of a channel and you just want it wider, then, remove an anchor. Or start this thing up higher. And then, just do small anchors. Because remember, I skipped holes to tug it down farther. So yeah, but this is just, a nice normal whatever. It's going to work well with the shooters. Okay, so after you've done both the sidewalls, you want to tie off this bottom piece. There's a bunch of ways to do that. You can do a loop, which is just going through one of these holes and then like zigzagging up and down through all of these and then coming back through, and then that's it. And there's another way, it's just you come in, it's kind of like you make little bunny ears. You come up through, but that's the one I always do, so I'm going to do that one. They don't look like bunny ears. I don't know why I said that. Alright. So you're coming in, either one you can start with. And then, so you've got all these holes up here to choose from. All those holes to choose from. Honestly, you can pick any of these holes that you want. Sometimes it makes a weird, pinch at the bottom of the head to where, if a referee's checking your stick and you put the ball in, they do this to make sure you don't have too much hold, and then they do it this way, and sometimes, the head this way, and sometimes if you string this bottom part wrong, it'll pinch weird at the bottom of the mesh and the ball gets stuck. So you might have to mess around with it a lot. This is actually the hardest part for me, which is kind of sad because it's not really that hard. But I have a lot of trouble with it for some reason. So I'm just going to do, you know, a simple sort of thing here. You know, just come up. You want to make it symmetric too. This is kind of hard to show on the camera, to be honest. So yeah, you're going up through one hole, coming up through another, but you know, you're going towards the middle, so make sure you go from this direction to this direction. Just do it for one hole. And you're coming back through the same hole down here. But if you have a head that has 4 holes, just come through the next hole. Okay? So that made it kind of like a loop. I guess that's why I called it a bunny ear. Okay? And then you're going to do that again. So make it symmetrical. You're going to come through this other hole that they have down here on the superpowers. They only have 2 holes. Okay? Now you're going to do that again. Try to make it symmetrical, like I said. Like, if this is like the 4th hole to the 5th hole, then do that over here, counting this way. 5th hole, 4th hole, but you're going the other direction. Okay. So I'm just going to take it through here. And pull it through here. Yep, that's actually exactly what it was. So it was 4th to the 5th, and then over here it was 4th to the 5th. So it's ended up being symmetrical. And just pulling it back through to make that other bunny ear, like that. See? So it's going to end up looking like that, except that's kind of ugly. Got to pull it a little tighter. And yeah, I mean, most of the time you want to make it so that you're pulling this as tight as you can, and so your pocket always stays the same. Because if it gets wet, these strings will stretch, and then your pocket will get deeper, and you know you don't want to have to deal with that all the time. Okay. So basically that's what I've done, is I pulled it super tight, what you just saw, the little bunny ears. You just tie it off. These are all really long strings. Obviously you can snip them off and stuff. I'm going to do that now, actually. And then, you know, you might want to tie a couple more knots, because sometimes the knots get pulled through the holes and stuff. So there you go. So that's everything without the shooters. Not a very deep pocket. Obviously, you can change it up however you want. But see, it's kind of like a mid pocket. You got a little area up here where, you know, you can dangle the ball up there. Nice channel. Other side. Side almost looks better, but, you know, it's the same. In the back, it's all sealed off right there, okay? And in the front, yeah, see, we've got a little pinched area. This is actually probably going to be fine. But sometimes you just got to make sure, because you don't want to get that 3-minute penalty that they give for the illegal sticks and all that. Okay, so then, yeah, you know, you want to punch your pocket, obviously. I'm sure you guys know. Just punch it in the area you want it, blah, blah, blah. And then the shooters. Okay, so the 4-inch thing, I don't have a ruler with me, but generally speaking, it's going to be like right here. But when I get shooters this low, and it's on like one of my older pieces of mesh, or the East Coast mesh, it ends up being illegal when they do this. It ends up just holding. So honestly, you can use 3. You can do 3 lines, or you can do just 2, and you can put them anywhere. You can put them up here, put them up here, put them up here, and just leave one in between them. That's what I would suggest, because when you do 2 consecutive rows with shooters on it, I don't know, it gets kind of weird. But hey, you can try anything out. Different things work for different people. But where I usually do is do 2, and I usually start the first one after skipping a couple holes. It's different every single time. I'm just trying to figure out which one I should do. I guess for this video I'm just going to do like I normally would. So even if you're doing the 3, well, if you're doing 3, I would start in this row right here. See this row up here that's connected to the top? Never put a shooter there. It's just not a good idea, and it never works. If you're doing 3, you might want to start in this row, just so you're, you know, not too close to that 4-inch limit. But what I'm going to do, since I'm only doing 2, is I'm going to start in this row. So this is 1 row, this is the 2nd row, 3rd row. On some heads you can start 3 from here, but I'm just going to do 2. So on this row right here, I'm going to start right here. Now the best way to do shooters, well, I'm going to start on the other side actually. The best way to do shooters is the first time you go through, you just want to weave it up and down, okay? So see, I went through the first one, I came up through the second one, and then you're just going to keep doing the thing. Weave up and down through the mesh. And try to keep it like flat. I'll show you what that means in a second. So you just go up and down, through the row that the shooter's going to be in. Up and down. Okay, now I'm coming out of the last hole on the other side. Now to keep keeping it flat, I mean like this, right here. This area, see how flat that is? You just want it like that. That produces the best results in the end. And then you kind of want to pull it to one side because you got to come through. So you want to make one side shorter where you're going to tie it off, and the other side long because you're going to have to come back. Okay, so I'm going to pull it a little bit tighter. See how it's all flat and nice like that? You want it like that, up, down, weaved. Now over here, this is the end where I came out of the last hole. You see I came up through the bottom. Now the best way to do this, some people will just go around the mesh like this, but I would recommend going around the head like this. So this knot is kind of in the way, but I'm going to go around the head like this. Now when you're coming back through, this is where it gets kind of difficult. So you see I've gone around the sidewall. Now you're going to come up through this hole in this situation, because sometimes the last hole you would have gone down instead of up like this, and you would have come up around the head. In that case, you would have gone down through that hole, but just do the opposite. So in this one, since I came up, I went around the head. Now I came up. So now I'm coming through the bottom like this. I'm just gonna put it on the top side of this knot because it looks weird. Okay, so hopefully you've seen what I've done there. See? I came up, I went around the head, and then I came under. Okay? So now, for the rest of the shooter, you're going to zigzag from left to right around the string that's already there. You're going to go like this, but you're also going to be going under and up, left, right. Okay, I'll show you what I mean. Okay. So I've come up on the side closest to the camera. Now on the next one, since there's an open piece of mesh here, I'm going to be going towards me, on the side towards me, which is this side right here. So you're coming up, and you're going on the opposite side that you came up from. So you came up on this side of the string, which is towards me, and you're going on the other side, towards the camera, sorry. Let me just show you. Okay. So just track the path. You see what happened? Hopefully. It's really freaking confusing to show on a camera, especially when the camera is backwards. Okay, so this is the original string. Go under this knot. This is the original string. I came up, I went under, right here. This is the new string. So I came up on this side, okay? I'm going over on the opposite side of the string, okay? So now I'm going to come up like this. On this side, see? Now I'm on the opposite side again. See? And that's how you just want to keep doing it. It's beautiful, just like that. See? So you come up on this side, you're going to go in on this side. Obviously, this is if you don't already know how to do shooters. A lot of people already know how. See? You're just going to do it like that, and then just replicate it the entire way. Oops. Okay, so this is what it looks like when it's done. It's loose at the end. Just going to tie it off. Oh yeah, and the tightness of your strings actually kind of matters a lot. So the way that the tightness of the shooter kind of affects it is like, if you tie it really tight and it's near the top, basically what's going to happen is, it kind of differs with the head and how you strung it, but in my past, it has created less whip. So you end up not hitting this lip because it kind of treats this like a lip when this is really tight, the shooter. And for me, that's created less whip. So basically, if you want less whip and it's near the top, tie it really tight. It won't touch the lip at all, so you won't have any lip either, blah, blah, blah. But if you start adding more shooters, and this is tight, and the other shooters are tight also, that'll create a lot of whip. So, but I'm only doing 2, so I guess that's the only one I'll really talk about. So, 2 or 3, no matter what you're doing, you want to skip a hole in between. Okay? So then you're just going to do the same thing on the next row, which is this row right here. Okay, so I'm going to do the whole thing again. Like I said, after you've done this a bunch of times, you'll just kind of get the feel of everything. You'll know what adjustments do what to your head. And then it gets pretty easy. And you get better lacrosse, sort of, too. Just coming back. Same thing as before. You want to weave up, down, across. Make sure it's flat. Alright, so I've done the whole second row. Just like the top row, I got to tie it off. And as you get lower, typically you want each consecutive string going down to be less tight. So you want the top to always be the tightest, no matter how tight it is. You just always want that to be the tightest. And then this one to be more loose, more loose, more loose. And so on. Okay, just tie it off. These strings can't be longer than 2 inches. All this excess string after the knots, none of it can be longer than 2 inches. You guys probably already know that. Got to clip it. Alright, so this is it. This is the whole thing. With 2 shooters. That's just my setup. You can have 3. You know, I already explained all that. And, you know, when you put your hand in there, you can kind of feel. Move this camera. You put your hand in there, you can kind of just feel where that ball is going to get stuck when you're shooting or when you're passing. And right here, it's not too tough, or it's not too, right here is a pretty good spot because it's not going to get stuck, I don't think, when I do this. I don't have a ball with me right now, but always try this stuff out before you're finished with the whole head, but I think this one will be fine. But yeah, I can feel just by like going like this and how it's catching on the shooters that I've created a good amount of width with a good channel, just like that. You know, you can poke it up like this, trying to show off to your friends, make it look super tight, you know, whatever you want to do. So yeah, plan on posting this to YouTube, so there's a comment section if you have questions or whatever, or if you don't understand any of this and it was too hard, just tell Coach Lee to let me know. I'll see him every single day in the spring. Just give him your head, strings, mesh. I'll string it for you for free. I don't really care. It'll take like 5 minutes. And I'll get it back to you whenever. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I hope this works out for you. Bye.